The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Test, test. How are we doing here with sound? Okay. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Yeah, my voice not good. I had a terrible night of sleeping. I was up like, you know, every 45 minutes, so I never really got into the deep, deep, deep sleep. And I'm having issues with one of my monitors just out of the blue. Uh oh, finished vacation. Good, good. Let me go through a few more of these. Ooh. I'm a walking disaster. I've never had what's happened to me go on. So, there's a lot behind the scenes in regards to the leg. Um, Snow and a blizzard. Yep, that's the Atlantic side. That used to be the way it was back in Virginia. Typically, we had many. You felt like we were on our way into spring, and President's Day was always a popular time for us to get major snowstorms. I remember. So, what happened with my knee? Um, it's some sort of compound stress injury. I've avoided the doctor because I've done good damage to my right knee before, pretty severe damage where surgery was an option, and the doctors had said you can take the long path and PT it and rehab it, and you'll get back to 95%, but it's going to be a long road. And steroids, prednisone, prednisoneamine, ever good, put on weight, finally get the knee rehabbed, and then spend, the next 6 months losing the weight from the prednisone. And so I've done that a couple times, and every time I've ever sprained my knee, I knew it when it happened. The tear was evident, the pain was evident. This was different in that I didn't. I'm not sure how. I mean, I know how, but the pain wasn't there when it happened, and so it was a little confusing to me. No, it's my left knee, and it just showed up 4 to 6 hours later. It started getting worse and worse, and then the next day it was, couldn't put any pressure on it at all. It was not usable and in a lot of pain. So anyway, I don't like doctors to begin with, but that aside, I just said, being the 18-year-old that I am and invincible, I just said, I'm going to suck this up. I've been through sprained knees before. And because for the most part, they're going to say, here's some pain meds and stay off your knee. Yeah, I hear you, Richard. Hold on. So, and then of course I don't do well with pain meds. The threshold to get me to remove the pain is high enough on the loopiness side that when I take it to relieve the pain, I kill my ability to think at all, and so I can't trade, I can't be creative, I can't do anything. So I don't like pain meds. So just power through. Geez. Well, after a week of that, and I take like these baby 3-inch steps, and my body's, putting all, I'm leaning and I'm putting all the weight on my right side. So after a week, I wake up over the weekend, this weekend, and I could feel my right hip is sore because the uneven pressure on it. So now I'm sitting there with my left knee and my right hip. So I'm favoring it tremendously. So I tried. I was picking up a bottle of water, or a package of bottles of water, and I didn't want to squat down the way I would usually squat down to pick it up because that extends the knee, and I didn't want to do that. So I kind of kept my leg straight and bent over. Well, for those who've been around me with many years, about every 2, 3, 4 years, I've got a disc that'll go crazy. And so the way I bent over just sent the disc off. I just pinched it or whatever. And so now I'm sitting there with the left knee torn, the right hip sore, and now my back is tweaked. And because I'm 18 and invincible, Zoe, that's why I was picking it up. I just couldn't stretch my knee in doing so. So then that night, I'm totally disgusted. I'm so frustrated. Knee, hip. I couldn't get comfortable anywhere. I couldn't sit down. My hip was hurting. I couldn't stand up. My leg was hurting. And now my back. And so when the back's like that, again, typically 2 or 3 days, this, whatever inflammation is goes away and I'm back to normal. And that'll only happen, like I said, once every 2 to 5 years. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen when it happens. This is just one of those times. So I'm real sensitive about my knee. Now, you have to understand the way I sleep and how I get into bed. I don't sit down and then flop. I kind of marine myself into bed, which means my right knee comes up. I get in on the left side of the bed, so my right knee comes up and I'm kind of sliding in, but pressure's on my left leg. So now I'm trying to do that, and I'm sensitive to the leg and my back, and I don't know how I did it. But when I put my right hand on the bed and I pulled my thumb, an injury like I had when I was playing football in high school. I mean, I just literally pulled my thumb back and sprained it. So I flopped into bed, and I'm like, okay, my left knee, my right hip, my back, and now my thumb. So yesterday, all day long, I've got ice packs on my right hand because the thumb was so swollen from being sprained. And Dallas is kind of like shaking his head and laughing. And I said, I'm not going to say what else can go wrong, because if I do, the universe will show me. So I refused to say, yeah, exactly. So I refused to say anything, but just a bunch of freak stuff. Oh, well, thanks, Jake. I appreciate that. Yeah, it does sound a little bit like a comedy of some sort. But, so, and to be honest, you got all this serious stuff with the knee, but right now my hand hurts more than anything. So, of course, being right-handed, you don't understand how much that impacts things. I have some metallic, water bottles, and I asked Dallas to get me one last night from the fridge, and he gets it to me, hands me, and I grab it with my right hand, and just that pressure and trying to, you forget, just that pressure trying to squeeze the bottle to hold it, it's like, oh my God. And then later last night, right before I go to bed, I sat down at the computer for a little while, and just moving the mouse is just incredibly challenging when you have your right thumb sprained. Yeah, Zoe, I should have just gone and seen The Greatest Showman, and everything would have been just fine. Anyway, so that's the saga. So if I get grizzly, it's not you guys, it's just me. I'm just mentally exhausted from all this stuff. All right, so let's talk. I like the way you wrote that, Richard. Let's just talk precision traders. So a lot of you are a lot closer than you think. Yeah, thank you, Zoe. Yeah, Grandpa. Ha ha ha. Yes, Dallas did go out yesterday, kind of surprised me, and got me a cane, and he's laughing the whole while because, for some reason society makes old people with a cane old. Oh no, Gloria. We'll get better soon too for you. Um, and it's funny how we can, as a society, put a kid on crutches. Well, that's okay, but give somebody that's over 40 a cane, and it's like, oh my God, look, it's Grandpa. I don't know. But I told him, I said, this is great in the house. It does relieve a little of the pressure, and my hip shouldn't be so bad. Uh, yeah, don't do much riding with the mouse today. That's gonna be impossible. But I won't. I'm not gonna go out in public with the cane. So yeah, he's quite the prankster sometimes. No, I couldn't. If you saw me write with my left hand or do anything with my left hand. All right, so precision traders. So you guys are so much closer than you realize. And Kelly, you're right in front of my face in the microphone. But that's okay for you, huh? And the thing is, you don't see it, and I do because I know the path. And I'm not just giving you like rah rah speech here. It's true. Um, and you're going to go through that Stargate, and you're going to realize what you have. Right now, most of you don't realize what you have. And I'm not speaking anything great about tab 29. I'm speaking about what you have and your knowledge and your ability to trade because of that knowledge. But like the person in the forest, I've done this. No. Oh my. Person in the forest with the little clearing, and they're sitting there with their campfire ablaze. I guess I need a little red in there. I don't have orange, so I'll throw a few brighter flames to the fire, if you will. And, they got dropped there or whatever, and they're trying to figure out how to get out, and they just don't realize that where they are, is there's an old forest road right there. They just don't know it, right? Because they can't see it, but they're that close. And that's where you guys are today. That's you. You're right there. If we consider the road victory. Kelly, no, don't. Oh. Sorry about that. You're right that close. Okay. And, yeah, thanks for that. It reminds me of a old Sinbad skit where he's talking about kids today versus kids, and this is already 10, 15 years old when he did this, but he's talking about like fast food teenagers working a fast food joint, and they no longer have to do the math because there's pictures of French fries and burgers or whatever on the keyboards, and so that's what they punch, and the registered computer does it all for them. And he was punching in the wrong things, and he's talking about, oh, excuse me for my artistic interpretation, because he couldn't get the order right. I guess it was funnier when he said it. So you're right there, okay? And what's happening is, what's the difference? Why is it you don't know where you are? Let me ask you that. Why do you think you don't know where you are? It's a simple answer. But why don't you know you're right there? Versus wondering how far it is this way, to get out of the forest. Why is it you don't know you're right there? What's that? What's that? No, you actually can see it, but you know, it's just not filtering to you. And it's because there's so much focus elsewhere. And the focus is usually in the moment, right? Our focus is in the moment. So that's, work on your meditation, work on your, as you sit down in your chair and you go through stuff, I tell people I still today do my mantras for meditation. Every time I sit down, if I'm going to look at charts and trade, I'm always doing the mantras for meditation. Why do I preserve and protect my capital? Why do I preserve and protect my capital? Why am I happy at the end of the day if my equity ball remains the same or has grown just a little bit? Two major mantras from the money management section, money management training, and I will always, always, always say that before I do anything. So it's important. You've got to get that down. You can luck your way into success demo trading. It's not good. You need a higher volume of trades. And you have to consciously work on your RES. You have to work on it. I know I'm supposed to say SIG, but I've got 10 years of RES, so it's hard for my old dog brain. You've got to work on your RES. You've got to consciously program it. You've got to tell yourself you have to be aware of everything on the charts and of your knowledge. Because if you don't, subconsciously, the dominant programming is going to prevail. And that dominant programming, when you sit down to do something, is with the knowledge you have about that level of focus. In other words, if I'm sitting down to do a 5-minute chart, my brain is in 5-minute activity. It's forgetting the 30-minute or the daily, it's forgetting to do a FEB. You can't do that. You have to program yourself to be active in all areas. And that's just, you have to consciously do that programming. The nice thing is we get to do the programming. The bad thing is you have to do it. And yeah, you don't want to beat yourself up at the end of the day, but at the same time, you want to not get to the mode where you have an opportunity to beat yourself up. Okay. So, I have a trader, I'll just say it, who's taken the long, hard path and has gotten through very well tab 29, trading tab 29 beautifully, and 2018 plan go live. And so despite coaching, which said you don't go from demo to live and do your progression in position sizing from day one. Just because you can put 2% in doesn't mean you should. Go with 2 dime lots. Go with 4 dime lots. And that's it. Doesn't matter. Your account will let you put in 200. Just go with those few because you have to work on. See, when you're demo trading, the dollar consequence is insignificant. It registers so little with your RES. Because your RES, your subconscious already knows it's not real. So it has a high tolerance. And besides, Steve's told you all along that your demo account is for experimentation. So now you kind of have to flip that. Now it's time to be selective. And this is the significance of the head game. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I just want to tell you the significance of the head game. So I wake up this morning to a text or a message, a Facebook message. I'm trying to move the mouse. It's not even attached to that computer. Steve, I need your help. To be straight, can't use the word up, exclamation, exclamation. I keep making all these mistakes, which have cost me so many -3s. And in 2 days, my account is down 6%. As you can imagine, I've been over trading, chasing trades that weren't there, and the list goes on. Because I've taken so many trades, my commission is what has killed me. First day I was only plus 2 pips. Today I'm minus 9.8 and down $600 on a 10K account. What should I do? I feel like everything and all the work I've done has gone against me, which in turn is messing the head game. Maybe it's because they had some other stuff going on. Not sure what I should do. See, here's the interesting thing. This is what's interesting about this post. As you can imagine, I've been over trading. Okay, what's that mean? Desperate, unreal expectations. Now I'm going live. You know, it's time to turn it on. After all, you know, you know how many times I've seen people when I say 5 pips a day in 24 months, you could be a millionaire. How many people come back and say, oh, well, if you could do that in 24 months, but if you got 7.8 pips, you could do it in 9 or whatever, you know? And it's like, dude, what, you know, you took this path to ensure you got here. Now you're here. You've got the knowledge and skills, but all of a sudden you're gonna multiple choice what you need to be doing. You're gonna defy what you've been taught. And the only reason you're messing up is because you're looking at your trading station. Now the trading station is ruling your thinking. You get a -3 and oh, it's negative and oh, so now I got a revenge trade to make it up. And all of a sudden your RAS is totally lost. So he knows what's going on, but he doesn't know what's going on. As you can imagine, I've been over trading, chasing trades that weren't there. Desperation. But it's a perfect example of the head game. I always say it. The head game is going to be 90%, 85, 95%, whatever. The head game is the ultimate. In this case, it doesn't matter what you know. The head game is 99.99% of whether you're going to make it or not. Yep, it's panic trading. It's letting the account dictate what you know what a trade is. And I mean, his track record, and you know, this is somebody I've private coached, so I know where their skill is. But rather than starting with a couple of dime lots, which have no consequence, and bridging that demo to live, nope, we're going to go for it all at once. 2% in the trade, right? And so now, you know, we've got to circle back. Got to circle back. Well, look, here's the deal. You know, at least after 2 days, he's like, help. There are traders who will just sink and sink and sink. And, you know, instantly after a year and a half of knowing they can do this, they end up believing it's not possible. And that's their ego kicking in because they don't want to admit that they're struggling. And so they become a victim all of us. Oh, it's the Forex. Nobody makes it in the Forex. It's not true. But that's what your ego is going to do. So it's all about the head game. So before you sit down and trade, do your money management stuff. You know, do your money management stuff. It's going to, even though you don't have live money working at the moment, the money management stuff, if you program it, will then prevail in the future when you're trading. I talk about selectivity. Don't take crap trades. Don't take lottery ticket trades. You have enough knowledge now that you don't have to. Patience. Be patient. There's nothing worse to the head game. You know, where this guy is now going to cost him. It's going to cost him. It might be weeks, it might be months, versus being patient, maybe waiting another day for the pristine trade. So what's a day to wait for a trade compared to 2 months of regression and having to come at it again? This is why patience is so important. Don't just intellectually hear that word. Put it to practice. Put it to practice. All right, so we got some questions. Let's get through them. My bad. Tuesday soapbox. Who's with me? I see some people who are doing other stuff. Look, if you can't be here and be here, it's okay. You can watch the recording, but you're wasting time to be here and then have to watch the recording because you weren't paying attention because you were here doing something else. And things happen, I get it. But, come on. As a start, Jonathan, watch the Law of Spirals video. All right, so questions. Had 5 or 6 come up. I threw Richards in even though it was way past the deadline, just because Richard's a nice guy. And because he and his wife send me cookies now and then. Hint, hint, hint. All right. I'm just kidding, Richard. It's nobody get insulted by this. It's just, stereotype humor. So how does the Jewish mother change the light bulb? She just says, "Oh, that's okay. I'll sit here in the dark." I love that. So it's okay, Richard. I don't need any cookies. I'll be just fine without them. So we got some good questions. All right, Steve, could you cover Elliott wave projection and how to use that whole Elliott wave section on the FIBO document? It's a great question. So let's bridge Fibonacci from a way that the average trader doesn't understand it. First of all, realize that the power in that document is this. And I'm not looking for pats on the back. I'm just telling you how the document was evolved. As a long-term trader, I've been through all of the years of side exploring. Elliott Wave, I visited twice, once pretty early in my career and then a second time. And I realized, okay, it's not for me. Maybe law of attraction, but it's fun for me sometimes when I don't have anything else to do. Like that happens a lot. But to look at a chart and try and get the count that has already transpired. That's enough of a challenge for me. I'm a little intellectually challenged on that. Again, that could be law of attraction. So I can't even do a historical count very well, nonetheless a forward count. But in looking at Elliott Wave, I learned ways to project waves. You got the old paradigm always looking for analysis. Where's it going? How far? What resistance level do you think it's going to get to? Blah, blah, blah. It's so ingrained in them that when I see it, it like chokes me. And I'm like, what do you need that for? Well, because that's what they were told. And that's why they suffer, because it's an endless pursuit. But nonetheless, if you are in a trade and you do know where that first wave is hit, you can guess where the second major wave may be. And if you're in a trade and you have the haul going, maybe it's time to transition from one haul to the next if you see how far that projection is going. Okay? Maybe with some of the lots, take out 80%, leave 20 in, and jump up a haul level if it's ready. Just a reminder. Maybe you've got a pitchfork, and you've got a snake running, and now you have some idea where that snake might end. If you've got multiple trades in that snake going up because it was a strong move, now maybe I could exit 2, 3, 4 of those trades. Because it makes sense at the top of the fork, because now it happens to also land on an Elliott wave projection. So, while the count in Elliott wave was something that I abandoned, again, maybe law of attraction, but gee, there's so many things we could trade. There's so much side learning, and you can't implement it all, because then it's paralysis through analysis. You got too much stuff, to work with. As a newer trader in this accelerated program, that's how some of you are overwhelmed, right? So Elliott wave has very set numbers for their projections. And that's nice, but here's the deal. Okay. I've looked at Scott Carney's work for several years now. And, while there's a lot of brilliance in what he's doing, haven't in the past been prepared to be a harmonic scan generator, to do all of the math and to do the filtering to figure out which pattern, and then because now I know the pattern, I could do the final entry line. But what I found is that Scott Carney has invented, or discovered several ratios used in doing that job that can do the same thing effectively, because we have harmonic wave convergence. See, the Elliott wave projections wouldn't help that much if you didn't have harmonic wave convergence. The scans wouldn't help that much if you didn't have harmonic wave convergence. So the harmonic wave convergence is the juice to make the FIBOs work. I hope that's understood. Harmonic wave convergence is the juice to make the FIBOs work. We have way too many, for a typical trader to go in there and use. 24 retracements, 24 projections. And so, your average trader, when I got the best collection of FIBOs you'll ever see. It's going to take you 5 years to duplicate this list. Because after all, who wants to pay $11.95 for a list of FIBOs when you can get them off the internet? The internet's free. Free is best. Group admins know what I'm talking about. Free is best. Good luck. Thousands and thousands of dollars expended on books, hundreds and hundreds of hours reading to find a good third of those FIBOs. But they're going to mean nothing to an old paradigm trader. They've got their 38.2, 50, 61.8, 78.6, and they're ready to roll, because that's about as much clarity as they're going to get, and only on a big move at that. So you have rocket fuel with FIBOs, but the ignition for that is harmonic wave convergence. The greatest, see, you guys have some vision. Don't let your heads get big because I'm going to compliment you some. You guys have vision because you're here. I mean, I can't tell you the frustration that I go through coaching IML traders who are, just kind of like hanging by IML. And, I'm trying to get them to the best they can be, but with standard tools. And there's plenty of times where they're like, well, why is this a trade? And, or they take a trade that they shouldn't. And you look at tab 29, you know exactly where it is. You know exactly why they should take that trade at that FEB. You know exactly why they should avoid the trade because it needs to go a little longer. It's not converging yet. So instead of getting, all these trades on the harmonic analyzer, not beating it up at all. It's an innovative tool, but, always late, always late. Or the traders that just take it, are almost always the reason they have to have 5 pip targets and 15 pip and 20 pip stops is because the way that thing works, inevitably, it's getting them in a lot of times right before the pullback. Again, I don't know his algorithm, but I've watched and watched and watched that entry, and that's why they have to have these massive, it's almost trading 30 and 60-minute charts with open stops, but they're on a 5-minute chart. So the size of the waves forces them to have those 15 and 20 pip stop losses. And you just watch it, with pitchforks and fibos, and you go, throw and tab 29 is the coup d'etat, it's the cream of the cream, it's the icing on the cake, and it just brings such clarity to all that mess. So it's really frustrating to be a coach, because I don't want to compromise myself and always be pushing shredder. It's not about making money off traders. It's the environment of IML. I'm not going to go in there and poach traders, which is why when we did this group, I said, hey, we can have these tools, but you have to be an IML member because I'm not going to steal from IML. That's not the game plan. It's to take IML traders and make them better. But you got to be careful how you do that, So anyway, the projections are there to empower you as if you were an Elliott wave trader, to empower you as if you knew the scans. The difference is, without knowing Elliott wave and without knowing the scans, we can substitute the precision and with much better clarity and accuracy with tab 29. So now we can have this full suite of projections. But just understand that projections come from Elliott wave. That's where that whole concept comes from, being able to project out to the next wave. So we're at the white line in real time. Everybody with me? We're at the white line in real time. I need to make sure I haven't put everybody asleep. And what that means is you can see the 1-2. And you can see how nicely it falls in our statistical zone 50 to 61.8. So, okay, 1-2. That means that's going to be followed by some sort of impulsive move. And now that impulsive move has actually created, a separate what we call a 1-2-3 trade. And a 1-2-3 trade is, again, it's old school, but, I have some sort of impulsive move up. I have a correction. I have a move out of that correction. And this would be your normal entry in that 1-2-3 trade. So I'm looking at this. I've seen the 1-2. I guessed the 1-2. And remember why? Because 73% of the time, that's where the wave 2 stops and turns into the 3 wave. So I want to guess how far this may go. Because down below in tab 29, maybe what I saw was this. Ooh la la. Now we have our perfect trade. And again, it doesn't matter which way it goes. It doesn't matter which is lower or higher here. If it's like this, we have divergence, and this is an excellent trade. I'm going to watch my waves. I'm going to watch my haul, but how far might this thing go? Getting reassurances would be nice. So I want to get, again, I'm real time in here. And I want to know how high this wave 3 may be. Don't even think of Elliott wave. Where's the next major wave going to terminate? So you can don't let your mind get all kind of Elliott wave. Count. Steve said don't account, but he's trying to count. No. Just see it as, I'm labeling Elliott waves so you understand what's going on behind the scenes. But you've passed the 1 wave, you've come to the 2. Now you want to know how far this thing may go. And from a technical perspective, that is wave 3. Okay. Well, look, it doesn't have to be divergent, right? Because you only have 1 of 2 choices there. Typically, if it's not going to be divergent, the way it's going to show up down here is like this. It's going to be your high or low. Oh, okay, we don't have divergence, but it's the high or low. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's going to be lower here, it's going to be divergent. If it's up here, we have the high or low. So we've talked about this, kind of as you move through your training. And you found that a lower low here was a disqualifier to the buy, then we go and now reintroduce divergence. So essentially, this is almost always going to be an entry. All right. So now you're trying to figure out where this thing's going to go. Well, from a purist, Elliott wave perspective, we've got to say, okay, here it is. This is where we're going. We're going to use our Elliott wave projections. Because from a purist standpoint, that'll give us some help. That's going to give us as much help as we're going to get with Elliott wave. But I caution that, because that's the first place I'm going to look. But I'm going to put, at the top, I'm going to put an asterisk. And the asterisk says Elliott wave is not always, ouch, 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 ouch. That's not Elliott wave. That's my hand. It's not always right. Well, if I'm an Elliott wave trader, that doesn't sound good. So now I put a double asterisk, and I say, but, so here's double, here's single, but through the years, we have our FIBOs. And those FIBOs, in this case, from a projection standpoint, from other heroes that have spent time with ratios in their trading. Scott Carney, Jim Kane, Timothy Morge, guys I've listed down here. And those other projects, exist in the column over here. Are they the same? Well, 3, 2, 3, 6. Hey, look at that. 3, 2, 3, 6. 618. Hey, we've got the 618. Just Elliott wave doesn't go out farther than that, and we have. Oh, we've got 2.0. But hey, we don't have 1902. So obviously you can tell by the length, we got a lot more numbers, twice the numbers of total projections versus Elliott wave. But it's always nice to go Elliott wave first. And you know what? That ain't a big deal to do. It's a click or two. So I've got my original move. Here's the bottom down here of the one. So Fibbo to the top of the one, and you drag it down, and you apply your Elliott wave projections. Now, when all's said and done, and we do that with the Elliott wave projections, this is the line we say that is the most frequent wave 3. And we actually get a pretty nice hit and pullback from it. And if I had, I don't want to cloud the issues. If we had multi-wave on here, you would see the hook back and you'd get out, because look at the size of the channels. Not too big, are they? 20 pip channels. So you can see you'd have plenty of time to get out on your first entry there on a sell. You'd make some pips. You'd probably get 8 to 12 pips in there. And the eventual 3 was never found by the Elliott wave projections. So that's why you don't want to be, oh, I'm going to dig into Elliott wave. I'm going to be that, I'm going to get Elliott wave down. Well, guess what? You've got videos, you've got training, you've got demo trading, you've got chart markups, you've got your pitchforks. You have a life, which may include a spouse or significant other, may include children, may include a job, may include church, may include hobbies, somewhere in there you got to get a little sleep. So if you were to take on Elliott wave as a side study, it might be a 12 to 18 month process because of everything else you have going on. Which is why when I've taught Elliott wave, I say don't get all hung up on Elliott wave. We can use what Elliott wave gives us, but we can throw away the rest because we have tab 29. So doesn't find it. The Elliott wave purist, guess what? Doesn't find it. Because they don't have all the Fibbos we have. So they end up there with the 3 in a trade that, now look, a couple things here. They projected out, and if they were running with their 60-minute Fibbo, look how little retracement it takes to take you out. Again, the magic of why the Hall, why the Hall is so great. Look at the small percentage of erosion before you would take out of that trade. So you could ride the Hall. It would be cool, though, to know that that really was the top. So as soon as the Hall does turn red, you're going, yeah, I know this is the zone, right? Or maybe there's a pitchfork somewhere up here, and you're a little, like, hey, what do I do? Tab 29 will help arbitrate that, but nothing wrong with double, secondary, tertiary confirmation of what's going on. So the tab 29, well, not the tab 29, the precision trader says, wait a second, Steve set up multiple templates for projections. The Elliott wave didn't give us anything. Let's look at the complete suite. And sure enough, here we have 176.4. So as price is making its way to 176.4, all of a sudden you see a convergence. And now you have, that convergence has more meat and meaning to you because your blue wave 3, your next higher level wave at the scale you're operating at, is now identified by one of our Fibbos. So in terms of Elliott wave as a subset, it's the first place to go. Because if you get the hit at Elliott wave using just your Elliott wave projections, if you get the hit and you have convergence, it's going to be a clean entry. Make sense? We on the same table? Same page? So now, we got to that 3, But let's come back to the bigger picture, because, now that we know that we've got this cycle going, we got the 1, the 2, the 3, and we can see this as some sort of triangle for the consolidation for 4. Callie, come on, baby. We want to know where this 1 might be. Well, we can't measure, well, we know where the 1 is because we have some techniques, and let's just skip that for now. This 1 is really what? It's a blue 5. Right? So now we know where this is. It's on a FIBO too. It was 200% of the 1 move. Pretty cool. But now we're here, and we've seen the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes it's just obvious like that, and even a non-counter like me can see it. We can come back and measure this, but I want to project the red 3. Where is that going to be? Where's the next major move? I can see this now. Here, I get here. That's the first wave. Where do I project up to the next major wave? You project off the 1 wave. Now I see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see it pulling back. I can now project off this wave to try and find the next high at that bigger level. The first level was here. I want to see where this next thing may be. Now I'm there. Now I'm here. I want to project where the next big thing may be. So you use the same skill set and the same tools. That's all. Take off the blues to not be confused. What are we going to do? Right? What are we going to do? Same thing. Let's go look at Elliott wave and use those projections. And it projects a wave for us at 1618, which is a standard wave 3 projecting from an Elliott wave 1. And so as price is working its way up here and we get convergence, there's a pinpointed trade. To the pip. There's your this is why you go through Elliott wave first, because if it lands on that 1618, which is, there's only a handful of Elliott wave projections. But look how accurate that is. That's insane. So I don't need to go to my full repertoire of projections because the Elliott wave projections ended up nailing it. Now, if price is getting up here and it's hesitating, it's starting to go past it, well, flip on your other projections then, but keep it simple until then. Yeah, that's an ooh-ah, woo-woo moment, guys, when you have that kind of projection. And don't get caught up on the waves. Just, go for the first major wave and then look for the next cycle of the major waves. You'll get it. It's a VOT situation. Have a little patience. So there it is now with multi-wave and tab 29. I don't even have to drop the lower levels. Hopefully you recognize what that is. And, multi-wave, as much as we don't use it, or you guys in the PT group didn't grow up on it, so, a lot of you don't have as much experience with it. But look at that pinpoint of the move. See, that's going to show up on your lower level chart. That's not some huge 60-minute, 3 pages wide chart snake 1 hour move. Those are the kinds that come up and give you that trade. And again, tab 29 alone, when you take this downstream to a low level chart and you have these with visibility on, you will see this at the lower level. You will see the 30, 15, 30, 10, depending on what you're running, convergence right at the Elliott wave projection. And then, we can start layering this with things like pitchforks and, looking at that, and then there again, some woo-woo with that. Because now at that red level, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the 5 up here at red. Fibonacci, nice big long wick. We love, I love love the wicks. Here's your Elliott wave 5 at the median of the pitchfork. No projections from 1 to 2. And we projected off this move to find the 3 at 1618. Now we're looking for the 5. So I'm going to project off the 3 wave. Now that I've identified it. That was the 1618 of the 1 wave projection. So from here to here was 1618. Once that pulls back, and I can see that's now the wave 4, how do I know that? Because that was a convergence, and it's pulling back, and it was the 1618. So now I want to project up one more. If I know my Elliott wave, I want to just project up to the next wave. And interestingly enough, it's 1382 to the pip at the time price hits the median after we have a fork that is now already proven. There's no 1-2 project. You can do a 1-2 to see what that is, just to see if it would come down here. I didn't do it for this illustration. So yeah, that becomes a huge energy point, and that's why it does drop like that. That's not me, that's Fibonacci, guys. All right, so I think hopefully I've answered that question to some degree of satisfaction. Let's move on. Oops, not there. Real quickly. Do you look at what the daily wave is doing? Yes. Say you have a daily wave at extreme. Is there a 30-minute convergence with the 4-hour convergence along with the P15 1-minute wave at convergence, as well as you enter that trade is up to 100 pips. You then see at the end of the day a strong candle close and the daily wave looking hooking. Would that trade be considered a swing or long-term trade? Labels. Why are you caring on where it goes? See, this is what I want to get away from. We don't want to care what it is. You have the Hall to help you realize. See, if you do have a 4-hour trade, if you have an 8-hour trade, convergence, if you have a daily convergence, yes, the price should move out in big ways. But where you're going to mess yourself up is because then you expect it to. What happens when you expect price to move out? Your RAS gets adjusted. It wants to please you, so it's going to show you only the things that's showing it moving on out, and it's not going to let you see the things that say, whoops, this time it's not going to go that far. You don't want to have an expectation of where it's going in that sense. Now, you have, and I hate to use the same words, but you have an underlying understanding. If we call that expectation, then it's semantical. You have an underlying understanding that it may go, but that's just part of your RAS programming. You also know sometimes it just doesn't do that. Maybe it's going to end up pulling back and snaking. Just go to a higher high, but at the daily level, 240 level, 480 level, those pullbacks until it goes to the higher high could be substantial. So you have tools. Hey, I'm going to get in this trade. I'm going to watch the 1-minute chart until it shows me that I can move to a 15-minute haul. And when that 15-minute haul is about to burn out and it starts going red on me, then I could say, well, at this time is my 30-minute or my 60-minute haul full green, or whatever direction I'm going. And if it is, then I can migrate there. That's the whole purpose of the haul migration. If you get into see, we can strip off the waves. Let's get you in the convergence and we can strip off the waves. Take tab 29 and multi-wave off your charts. You can manage that trade, whether it goes 50 pips or 500 pips. You can manage it with the haul. And the only thing that's going to mess you up is your expectation of where it's going to go, because that's then going to control your actions. It's old paradigm to try and worry about where it's going. And that's just programming, because that's what everybody else said. Well, where do we think this is going to go? Well, let's look at our 4-hour or 8-hour, supply and demand, blah, 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 blah. You have the tools that say if it's going to end at 50 pips, then it ends. If my 15-minute haul is reversed and my 1-hour haul hasn't yet even turned in my favor, I'm out of that trade. It doesn't matter what happens after that. You have to learn to use the tools and to trust them, and don't worry about the times that there's exceptions to it. Every time you think it's going someplace, every time you anticipate it going someplace, every time you expect it going someplace, your RAS is now working against you. And you're not going to be a consistent trader when RAS is working against you. It thinks it's serving you by the commands you gave it. You have to give it different commands. And of course, that is so ingrained in the trading that's out there that some people, when you talk about how great harmonic wave convergence is or how powerful it is, well, if it's so great, tell me where price is going to be in this move, because they think that's why it's a paradigm. In order for something to be good, it has to tell you where it's going. Remember the train station. You don't need to be the guys along the path trying to predict when it's going to be at the train station, because you're already sitting there and you know when the train will be there. Take what's given. Don't try and stretch. 5 pips a day makes you a millionaire. Look at my student this morning. 2 days of live and his head is upside down. 2 days of live and he's down 6% on a $10,000 account, just with minus threes. Don't do that. In terms of the second question, can you touch also a little on when the 30-minute wave is snaking and you have a 15-minute, 1-minute converging, you enter the trade, get taken out at minus 3, and then again, okay, so here we've talked about this. So this is just repeat. This isn't new. Price moving up, hits a plateau, starts coming back, another plateau, comes back, another plateau, right? What's that look like in? It very well may look like a 30-minute convergence and a snake. And these are going to be, our 10 or 15-minute hits against that snake. Doesn't matter how far we want to draw these, don't worry about it. Well, here's the point. If I get in this trade here, and after that trade, and of course I'll be out because I'll have a hook back to exit on. Exit, green bars, time to get out of that hookback. POT hookback. Now I see the 30-minute wave. As this is moving down, I already see the 30-minute wave snaking. I know where this is going. It's not an expectation. This is fact because of my VOT. So I'm looking for my exit. Now, here's the deal. My re-entry. This is RAS to what? This is RAS bent by harmonic wave convergence. When you have a move that's going like that, what have we said? Do not chase tops. This one was your first harmonic wave convergence. You want to trade that. But we're not chasing these tops. Your RAS is trying to do that to you. Do we want to take them? Yeah, because you know one of these just may drop 500 pips. Wait a second. We don't chase tops, but one of them may go 500 pips. There's a conflict there. No. What's the difference here? We don't take this trade here. It has a condition. What's the condition to take that trade? And this is the moment you guys are going to turn me grizzly or make me smile. What's the condition to take that trade? Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Donia. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ryan. You already have pips in hand from some, in this case, buy into the sell. Maybe this, as I've drawn it, there was nothing here to tell you that this was a trade. But by the time the second convergence happened, and you don't take it because what? I don't have pips in hand. But now here, this is going to be one of two things. It's going to be a higher low, or it's going to be a lower low with divergence. So here's my buy into the sell. I end up here, got 18 pips in hand. Now I can afford a -3 if I'm wrong, trying to catch this top, in case it's just going to continue to snake. So this is nothing more than discipline. This is your RAS trying to tell you to take harmonic wave convergence, because at the moment your RAS isn't programmed enough to remember buy into the sell. And so your crew is just showing you what you need to see with the convergence. Oh, look at that beautiful convergence. I better take that. On the buy, it just depends on the size of the move. You can CBT this move up here. You can close it out and pocket the pips and do the sell separate. You have options up here. But to consider the harmonic wave convergence in a snake that has already been snaking, you want to have pips in hand. Taking this trade blind, oh, gee, Steve, that's nice in theory, but I didn't get to the chart until here. Well, that means that's not a trade. Unless you have the mental game to prepare for -3s. And they're not going to mess you up like the student that messaged me this morning. So part of it is not just a rule for trading, as much as it is a recommendation to move the masses with where their head game is. But the reason you're trying to take these trades to begin with is your RAS is already dominant towards harmonic wave convergence. And so this is just forcing it to open up a little again. We execute all our trades from the 1-minute chart the best we can. Now look, here we don't trade but the 1-minute chart. All right, so enough of that. But the key there is, one, your RAS is restricting you to look at harmonic wave convergence. And two, when we have a snake and it's continuing to snake and we don't have pips in hand from anything, we don't take the convergence trades until we do. FOMO, oh, I got to get in here and get some pips. Look, it's convergence. Oh, look how, afterwards, look how many pips I could have had if I just didn't listen to Steve and I got in those trades. Right? Instead of saying, fine, here's the rule. This is what I'm going to do. No more, snaking 30-minute wave, 10-minute converging, 15-minute converging into it. I'm not going to take them unless I have pips in hand. It's nice that it generates pips. There's lots of things on the charts. You can go look at charts all day long from 1, 10, 15, 30, 60. There's all sorts of trades you missed today. We use 10 minutes to calculate our risk in the trade. We put our 2% into a 10 pip stop loss. On a 10-minute chart, rarely would we use the full 10 minutes. There are exceptions, but it's 10%. It's 1 out of 10. So don't worry as a newer trader what those exceptions are. Just go with the 90%. The one time it's not going to work, big deal. -3, -5. You can't learn it all now. This is a scenario where most of your learning is not going to come from the videos. Most of your learning is going to come from your posted trades. So out of what you learned, what really is significant, and what wasn't taught, you'll make up by experience, because the 50,000 page PDF won't even upload. So yeah, there's your answer to the 30-minute snake with the 10-minute wave going into it, blah, blah, blah. Now, exception to that, let's make this clear, because again, I'll be quoted out of context. The exception to that, well, not so much the exception, but the easy way to deal with that is when the 10-minute wave is also snaking. These are easy trades because every one of these 1-minute pullbacks, there's nothing else to pull back if the 10 is flat. So these 1-minute pullbacks, boom, trade, don't even need the bars to flip. Just give me the hook back in the 1-minute wave. Converge, pull back, deeper, shallower, I don't care. Hook back in there like swimwear, as Brian used to say. Don't even need bar flips. Just take this because it's going to go up. In the old days with multi-wave, we could have a sawtooth coming down, so we didn't want to take the hook back. Tab 29 is a different system. There's compromises and negotiation amongst the 4 players that make up that 1-minute wave. There's very rarely, so it doesn't say it doesn't happen, but it's very rare. This is almost always easy pips. And oh, by the way, there's inverse disproportionality here. Those that grew up on multi-wave know what disproportionality is, which means that kind of hook back is often one of your most powerful ones, because the pips that are going to generate from that hook back and the pips that generate from this could actually be 3 times that. In other words, the move here from this pullback is like that, and the move here from this pullback may go like that, just off the chart. So yeah, even those little dinky ones, take. Don't be greedy. Remember, a snake in the grass means what? Wrong time to be in the trade. A buy into the sell and a sell into the buy because of that are what? You know why it's capital and one that's not. What are these? Those are gravy trades. And when somebody hands you gravy and the gravy boat is half full, you don't complain. You don't go seeking a full gravy boat. Just take the gravy that's given to you. Okay? Those are gravy trades. Meaning, if I got 7 pips out of it and it went 15, I'm not going to cry. And next trade, I'm not going to try and stay in longer because the last trade I got 15 instead of getting out at 7 when I did. Yes, Thank you, Thomas, for Zoe's perspective. You want to snarf up those pips. I didn't say it. Thomas did, Zoe. He said snarf it up. All right, so I think we got that one covered. Are there any patterns in tab 29 that indicate a possible trade opportunity that we should look out for? So again, Phil asked a very legitimate question from a newer trader's perspective, and I got a little snarky with him because I'm trying to get your mindset to be in the right place to be a Forex trader. And I don't know if some of you saw it. My response was, what? You're asking me to do the work? Why don't you list all the ways you know that tab 29 generates trades and ask me if you're missing anything? See? That's just me. That's not me being mean or grizzly. That's me being a good coach. Because otherwise, you're going to get into a situation one day on a deserted island while you're trading, and nobody's going to be there to help you. You can't say, well, gee, how many possibilities are there? Tell me what I need to know. I'm not picking on Phil. Phil, if you're here, are you? I don't know. Maybe. Don't worry about it. I'm not picking on you. I'm just making an example from your question. So, no, I'm not going to tell you. Hopefully, I'm going to go through a list of things, and you're going to sit there. I'm going to spend a half hour building a list and go, oh, yeah, I know that one. Oh, yeah, I know that one. Oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, gee, isn't that convenient for you? I'm going to spend all that time? No, I'm the teacher, you're the student. You come to me and say, hey, this is my understanding of what trade opportunities we have with tab 29. Am I missing anything? Does that make sense? Be honest with me. Is that snarky or helpful? Is that shaping the trader the way he needs to be shaped? It's annoyingly helpful. There you go, Zoe. There's the great answer. It's annoyingly helpful. Yeah, put it in the 1,000 page. It's 50,000, Luke. 10,000, whatever. Yeah. So, where do you get those answers? Tab 29 material and OPM. OPM, those not familiar. Other people's mistakes, i.e. I'm going to the group. I'm not far enough yet to start trading, even demo trading. I'm still just kind of meandering through the sessions or tab 29 or whatever, wherever you are. But you better be in the group watching what other people are being told. As I said earlier, that's where you're going to get the majority of your training is going to come from the group, OPM posts. All right, moving on. Got to get this train moving. Was going to write this question at the beginning of the Tuesday session, so here it is. When you set the 4-hour FIBA with sync and visibility, how far back on the screen do you go? As in, how much do you zoom out to see where a swing high and low are containing price? There is always farther out you could go. Yeah, okay, so I kind of get that. All right. This is my experimental group. Okay, I think here. All right, so 240 chart, 4 hours for those that can't do the math. That's snarky. You want to go out some to where you really feel that in the recent history, you're covering the swing high and swing low. Now, again, recent history. I don't think we need to go a year back, to get a true high low. We could grab that real quick off a daily chart. So if this is our current time, here's December. That's the last 6 months. Probably pretty good because we're heading into a new year. And so I could look at that. And so I would probably say, for me, what I would do is there would be my swing low and there would be my swing high. And from those, everything else has been contained. What we mean by contained is price has not breached that high and price has not breached that low. And so we could put it on there. But guys, this is the exercise in Fibonacci. What do I mean by that? I don't know that it'll work out here. Have a good day.
I'll try.
Yeah, don't try to. It's our little routine. Every day he goes to class. He knows he's not supposed to say I'll try, but he does just to rile me, so I say no try do. Fibonacci recycles itself. And so you don't have to try and be as precise as you think you do in figuring some of this stuff out. I've not been here, so I don't know. Just put basics on. And so what do I mean by that? What'll happen here is what you're concerned about with your FIBO work is what's going to happen in the future, from that point on. What might serve as support and resistance in the future. And so you say, well, I got some lines in here. I mean, look at the 38 too. You can see, it's significant. And that's even on the way up. This is reverse compliance. Look at the 23.6 after the top. I mean, that's strong. So what do I mean by it recycles itself is if we come in and draw another FIBO, let's say you picked this as the bottom and you went up to, not with ink to go, but with your FIBO tool. You're going to see, some pockets start to appear. And if I then went here and measured this, my swing low and up, you're going to get pockets to appear there. Clusters are going to start to appear with each other. If Fibonacci is going to hold true from a move, it has that staying power with smaller waves into the future. What is a 61.8% retracement on one retracement will be a 23.6 on another, or it'll be, a projected wave or whatever. So again, train your RIS to say, FIBO is a tool. It's not 100%. You're not going to exercise all that you can exercise with FIBO. If you did, and you painted each FIBO line white, and those of you that have been through Shredder know this, your screen's going to end up looking like this with white FIBO lines between the projections and the retracements and the expansions and the extended retracements and 24 values for each one of those. That's what your screen's going to look like. There's your support and resistance. You're never going to do enough and not know where you've overdone it. It's FOMO. Get rid of it. look in the most recent history, find the biggest swing, after which all the price has still been contained. And you don't have to worry about some move back here that was higher. Why? Because you haven't even breached the one at the short term yet. These ones back here may, F6, F8, that means bold and underline, may have some significance once we get out of this zone that's currently constrained by this move. Until then, you're wasting mental energy. Does that make sense? This stuff over here is not relevant, or if it's way down here, it's not relevant. Right now, this is the swing that's going to control price. If it goes out of here, then yeah, maybe I want to look at a larger time frame. That might be an 8-hour look. That might be an annual look. Right now, this is all I need to know. And trust me, the big FIBO over here that we don't see, it has that progressive continuation within it. Which means if I did find that and I did draw it, if something over here was significant, it would be a cluster or on the same line. That's the way FIBO works. I just need the closest big move that since that move, everything is encapsulated in, within reason. And then don't worry about it. See, it's not like, oh, guess what? This move over here, that lives off the magic of the FIBO, but this recent move in green that I have circled, oh no, that one doesn't. No, that's a swing, and FIBO is going to hold for that move. No differently than it does back here. I just don't need to worry about that one because I haven't even left this one yet. So all of these ups and downs, if it's going to be compliant with FIBO, well, there you have it. We're on the same page. Yes, no, maybe so. Come on, don't fade on me. Yes or no questions need to be answered. Yes or no. I don't see when you're nodding your head. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I had a full year of that. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. It's from session last night. When trading 5-minute pitchforks, we're in the down stretch. Let's go fast. When trading 5-minute pitchforks, should we try to use multi-wave since tab 29 doesn't work on the 5-minute chart? Or should we remove multi-wave and use pitchforks, harmonic targets, Fibonacci for hits and entries? Well, what did your experimentation tell you? Again, the snarky, grizzly Steve shows up. Don't ask hypothetical questions. Do you have a set of 5-minute charts? Do they have harmonic targets? Do they have Fibonacci? What results did you get when you drew 5-minute pitchforks with those items? See? Does it make sense? Way back when, I think it was the first IML session I taught. Some of you weren't there. I get it. And it's off the screen now. It's no longer a recording. But I put up that list of what it's going to take to be a successful trader. Be the MacGyver. Be the explorer. Connect the dots. You got to be adventurous. Right, I'll dig it up and find it. Well, first of all, we didn't want tab 29 on the 5-minute charts because in the shredder system, the green traders and the bronze traders use 5-minute charts. And we didn't want them having tab 29 because if they had access to tab 29, they'd be using it. So we wanted to, and we didn't want to teach them to go down that path. So we limited it. And the reality is, I'm going to take that limit. So we have a work order in, and we're going to bring tab 29. So when you're on a 5-minute chart, it'll auto-diagnose for the right 5-minute waves. So it'll probably put on a 5, 10, 30, and you'll have a choice to make the 10 either a 10 or a 15. But besides that, the mainstay of my answer will be, what has your drawing of 5-minute pitchfork shown you in regard to this? Now look, guys, there's time and a place for me to answer questions. If I were to say, well, go spend 10 years to figure out the FIBO numbers because you need to explore, I'm not going to do that to you. That's not serving the purpose of you becoming the MacGyver, the explorer that you need to be a successful trader. But there are places where, when you ask hypothetical questions, that you can answer yourself. And not only that, when you answer it yourself, if you've done the right job, that's a better answer than whatever I could give you, right? You all do understand that, right? When you discover it on your own through your work, it's a better answer. You can come to your conclusion and say, Steve, I've been considering 5-minute pitchforks and their viability since we don't have tab 29. This is what I've discovered. Does your experience align with that, or do you think it should be different? See the difference between the two questions. And if you were right, what does your subconscious mind do? It stands up and gives you a standing ovation. Yeah, man, look at you, look at you. You get the brown star, the big, bright star on your paper today. Look at what you did. Oh my gosh, your subconscious mind loves that. And it sticks much more with you too. But that being said, I don't want to, again, I'm not picking on Ariel here. It's a legitimate question. I'm just saying, reshape the question. Instead of asking it from a hypothetical standpoint, ask it from the trading perspective. I've done this. This is my hypothesis. Do you agree or disagree? Now you're engaging me. I'm not, picking on Phil, picking on Ariel today. Guys, I can and I know you're not in this group, but I can tell you I've got 500 traders a month that come to me with hypothetical questions, and they want me to spend hours explaining something, and they've spent nothing except drumming up the hypothetical question. Well, if the wind's blowing from the southwest at 17 miles per hour, and we're 14 days into the lunar cycle this month, and it's high tide, should I take the trade? Not picking on the traders here. I'm just saying I get those questions. And it doesn't serve the trader any good for me to answer them, because what does it do? It just encourages them to look for more hypothetical questions. They're getting ready to trade. All right. Five-minute pitchfork without tab 29. Looks like it's stuck. Auto Diagnostics says to tab 29, this is a 5-minute chart. We're not going to give you access. So it's just going to sit there looking like that, right? You can put multi-wave on if that's your choice. Let's talk real quickly before we end today about pitchforks. What is our goal on a 15-minute scan? Your little middle school BFF necklace We're not talking about best friends forever here. We're talking about big fat forks. We want that fork 85 pips or more. Why? So when we look at the 15% success rate, we're going to get more than our 10 pips. So there, we like big fat forks at the 15-minute level. Understand this, most of the time the 15-minute forks are really 30-minute or 60-minute forks. Just like right here, I can draw a fork, from here to here as the swing. The problem is there are other swings in there that better define it. And look, what do you from a trading perspective, what are we trading in a fork? What's tradable in the fork? The three lines. Upper parallel, Andrews calls it UH. Lower parallel, Andrews calls it UH. We've adopted upper parallel and lower parallel. And the median. My writing is even worse. I have a new mouse and my hand is not feeling well. So excuse my writing today. Those are the three lines. Now, if those are lines of opportunity and we're on X time period, while it looks fat and juicy to have a big fat fork to work with, because that means, ooh, pound yen London session. That means big pips. It also means I have to wait longer for trades to potentially get those big pips. Which would you rather trade? On a X time period, a fork whose lines are like that, and I don't mean squiggly, but I mean like that, or a fork whose lines are like that. Here's my opportunity for trades. Here's my opportunity for trades. So if this is a 200 pip fork, and meaning, upper parallel, lower parallel, and this is a 40 pip fork, yeah, I'm going to have fewer pips in my trades, but they're going to come more frequently and they're going to appear with not just more frequently, but I'm going to get more of them in that frequency. I guess that's saying the same thing. So you don't want to oversize your forks on a lower time period and put forks on your chart that really belong, if this is 5, that really belong on a 15 or 30-minute chart. Likewise, on your 15 or 30-minute chart, you really don't want to chop them up, because then you're not getting the full advantage of the swing. You want to size them to the 30-minute chart. You just don't want to take a 4-hour fork and put it on a 30-minute chart. Because again, frequency of opportunity. Each chart has its distance. Now remember, we talked about using tab 29 and or multi-wave to try and help you find this, as you start drawing your forks. In other words, align your tops and bottoms as best you can with convergences. And once you have that, then we call that tuning the fork to the time period. Well, that's what Steve calls it. I don't know that you'd find that in Timothy Morge's books, but I'll talk about it. You want to tune the fork to the time period. Once you've done that, then you have a tradable fork. Now, so here's the RAS involved in the question that was asked. Oh, I don't have tab 29 here. What should I do? Well, I'll tell you what you should do. Take your 5-minute fork that's tuned to your 5-minute chart And go put on your 1 minute. Fork doesn't change in size, but you have a little bit more clarity over what's going on. And you can see it. And you have tab 29. Now you can see it on the 5-minute fork too, but this just, you got tab 29 pieces of 10 to help you here. You got all sorts of things that pop up here, and it's not a huge jump. It's not like taking a 4-hour fork and putting it on a 1-minute chart. You're just one level up. So if you feel you're more empowered with tab 29, guess what? The FIBOs don't change values because you jump for a drop from a 5 to a 1-minute chart. Your harmonic targets don't change and go different places because you drop from a 5-minute to a 1-minute chart. They're all the same. So all the tools you can use on your 5-minute chart are available on the 1-minute chart. It's just here you have tab 29. Questions? And let me see. Let me see. I may be wrong in my thinking, but let me see. What? Oh, okay. Did adjust. So we have, the 1-minute haul. As we get towards the top end of it, I'm going to let this thing run to the median. I'm not going to let that take me out. Based on what I've seen, this thing is traversed up and down. So from a trade here, I want to shoot to the median, 40% pullback. But let's say we get up in this range. Just again, now I'm giving you a hypothetical question. Let's say we got two-thirds of the way up here. All right. So I've seen this thing go bottom to top, top to bottom. Now I'm going from bottom up again. So if I have the haul here and I see good momentum in this range here, it hasn't flipped at the time I'm here. So I have choices. This is great. Trader options. It's bouncing off the top. I can exit 100%. Or I could say, this is one of those times where I've gotten to a logical target, but I'm going to trust the haul. And if you did, you would have eroded off some pips. But again, you can exit 100%. You could exit, 50 to 80, let's say 80%, and then let the last set of lots, 20% on the haul. Or you can be 100% on the haul. None of those are wrong. They're okay. All three of them are wrong. One's going to make more pips than the other, but that's okay. Callie, we can't do that. Ow. So options. You've got 10-minute to 10-minute. Somewhere you're going to exit up in here. Well, guess what? That's at the top of the pitchfork. So options. Thank you, Sister. I only got one more little thing, and so I'm going to take a minute or two so you haven't missed that much. Just go wind it to the end when you get back. All right, so let's get to the last question and call it a day. Hopefully you're getting some value out of today. So Richard's question was doing goal setters, I think goal makers. and was reminded how the birth order affects how you trade. The birth order books don't address this. Of course. Could you spend a minute on this sometime? So I'll just give a tease, and that is, again, sit down. First of all, find the birth order book from your notes, depending on which book you actually have, or from which research on the web you actually have. But find the personality traits based on your birth order which match you. And you might have overlapping because it's sophisticated. It's not just birth 1, birth 2, birth 3. There's all sorts of conditions, right? A boy in a group of sibling girls, a girl in a group of sibling boys, orphans, adopted kids, kids who were, late. The third kid was 10 years behind the first two. That's the same as a firstborn. There's all those idiosyncrasies, but try and find yourself there. I don't know what you're referring to, Adonia, so give me an example for that. So find yourself first, and then look at the attributes and say, yeah, that pretty much defines me. Realize that that's kind of a genetic encoding from birth order, that you can overcome it. But if you don't know what to overcome, which I think is part of Richard's question in terms of trading, but let me give you an example. We'll look at just a couple of these and then call it a day. So this is just one. There's dozens of these on the web. And you can see things like, well, how would this personality trait as a firstborn affect you as a trader? Parent expectations are usually very high. If a parent has big expectations on you, do you absorb those expectations? Yes, you do. And so how does that impact your trading? That can help you and hurt you. If you feel that's a burden, it's not going to be very helpful. If you see it as a challenge, Dallas is in his last semester of school. He's immersed himself in, his Forex studies. His vision is by the fall to be a good enough of a live trader that he won't have to have a job as he finishes off his junior and senior year. Assuming he's accepted it, but assuming he carries through with his transfer to Boise State. He wants to be able to study in college and not have to have a job because he knows I wouldn't let him just be a college student. That's me. So if you have that first order syndrome of high expectations, that often is a good thing. You need to take it and again, don't see it as a burden, see it as a great opportunity. MacGyver, Michael Jordan, failure is not an option. Andy Andrews, persist without exception. There's no room to fail here. And it's in my blood. Number 2, more competitive. May become a rebel or outdo everybody. What does that say? Competition can deteriorate in a rivalry. Who's your competitor when you're trading? Charts. trading station. This middle child, oh my gosh, I've seen a lot of traders here. Whoops. Middle child, maybe even-tempered, take it or leave it attitude, may have trouble finding a place or become a fighter of injustice. The middle child is your party child. What do I mean by that? The middle child, because of that take it or leave it attitude, they're less inclined to be disciplined. The structure is not something they like. Child number one, because of the expectations, they typically are very disciplined. They are the achievers. Child number two, take it or leave it. A good way to see child number two is they go with the flow. But they can take it or leave it. They're much more casual. What does that mean in terms of trading? If a trader has very specific criteria for a trade in a given situation, they can very often just, oh, well, it's okay if I get in early. Maybe this will turn around and be the criteria I want. I'm going to go ahead and get in now. On exits, whimsical. Again, just, they can take it or leave it. What difference does it make? I don't need to analyze this. I'll just put these 10 pips in the bank. A little laissez-faire. So there you have it. Now, there's several books out there. I'm not going to recommend one over the other. It's an interesting subject. Did I tell you about, and I'll end with this, did I tell you guys about my my conversation with Gemma the other day, Gemma, the psychologist, about, well, it was about 2 weeks ago, actually, about the mice? Did I tell you about the mice? I think I told one group. I just don't remember which group. Okay, Thomas doesn't recall it. So this is really exciting. Challenging to psychologists who work with people with self-worth issues and finding the big thing in their past. So essentially what she led me to some research about how what they've discovered in the neuroscience world is that our brain is not the only source of memory. We have memories, and they know for sure environmental, but our memories are also stored in our DNA, not just our subconscious mind, our unconscious mind. And so I'm like, what? And she says, yeah, so they've been working on this a few years. I think the pioneering studies that they did were a couple years back, and now they've been replicated and duplicated dozens of times and in more ways. But here's what they did in the original study. They took mice, and they had two groups. So they had the control group and then the test group. And what they did was electrically stimulated them to a point of fear and discomfort and being extremely scared. They did this to both groups. So give the electrical stimulus, both were shocked literally into fear. The second group, or the test group, when they did that shock, they pumped in the scent from cherry blossoms. Now, I don't know all the history on why cherry blossom, but they did. And they did that repeatedly to a point, like a Pavlovian conditioning, to where all they had to do was pump that cherry scent in, cherry blossom scent, and the mice in that test group would freak out. So they learned to anchor the smell of the cherry blossom to fear. And they exhibited the exact same behavior that the mice that were being electrically stimulated into fear anytime they then smelt the cherry blossom scent. So, okay, that makes sense. We know anchoring takes place. Now, here's what was the cool part of the experiment. They went 5 generations down. Paternal side, that was the study, went 5 generations down in both groups, pumped cherry blossom scent into the descendants of the ones that were stimulated with the cherry blossom scent, and they immediately went into a state of shock and fear. Nothing else involved. So they know that the memory is being passed on in the DNA. Now, we're at the early stage of this. We've got to test the maternal side, and then which is more dominant. If it's even a dominant issue, maybe it only works down the paternal leg. I don't know. And then of maternal paternal, which generation has more dominance? Could they go 10 generations down and still see the same results? So there's a lot more experimentation to be done. But the bottom line is, it's not always your conditioning, your nurturing, the parenting that was given to you, your life experiences. The reality is, some of you and how you see the world, subconsciously, unconsciously, can come from your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-grandfather 10 levels up. And so, obviously, Ryan. And so, but it's not an excuse. It just means that's where your programming started. Just like birth order, it's where your programming started. Oh, there's other things too. Zoe, Tim, you're here. I don't know if you guys are still around. Richard, those of you who went through the original Shredder program as Pip Club traders, I think we have this in the training, because I know I taught this. I just don't remember if it was in the SFX trading or if I did it in an OCR. But a bit of science. When you were conceived, this is cool to know too. So there we have an egg, and it depends on at what point in that egg fertilization took place. If it takes place here versus here versus here, these locations, outside, middle, inside, those 3 things, those 3 locations, here's the cool part, determine body type. The location of the fertilization determines body type. And guess what? Body types have personality traits. Now, we know there's exception to everything. Some people are kind of like hybrids between, 2 body types, etc. Body types equal personality. So in addition to birth order, there's other things like body type. We got birth order. Now we have body type. And now we know you have some, best way I'll just describe it, ancient history, which is passed on via the DNA. And so, as genome experimentation continues, as science gets better, I'm assuming, we're probably not all in favor of things like, genetically ordering a baby. Get into the DNA. Go to the baby store. I want a male. I want him to be 6 foot tall, red hair, a leader, and they pluck away at the gene pool and create your Frankenstein baby. That's probably not the way our Western society would want to go. However, just like medical stuff, that predispositions that can maybe be engineered out, wouldn't it be cool to have the negative attributes of our ancestry removed? Just a thought. I saw an article the other day. It says if you live to the year 2030 to 2050, you can be 1,000 years old. Not that you might want to be, but that's the speed of genetic research and engineering is going at that pace. That if you can hang around, another 10 to 30 years, they're going to have the engineering in there on the aging side, to eliminate that reality. Anyway, so a lot of things can determine your personality, and some of that programming that comes generic into your RAS, and this is why you want to research this stuff. This is why you want to understand your birth order. You just want to understand the genetic predisposition. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. It doesn't mean it is that way for you. And even if it is, it doesn't mean it has to stay that way. But as long as you're aware of it, then you know where to put some emphasis. Gee, I'm the middle kid, I'm the party kid, I'm the go with the flow kid. I need to be extra disciplined on my trade entries. I need to be extra disciplined on the selectivity. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a batch of -3s, and the mental side, the emotional side, might not be able to handle that. Same thing with the exit. So understand your personality type, and then do a little thinking on your own about how that can impact your trading. It's a fun area. I've often wanted to expand this and teach a full class on. I don't know if I could find enough material to teach a full day, but with where neuroscience has taken us, it's a pretty interesting thing. So it's something on my kind of like checklist of things to do, but unfortunately there's 100 things in front of it that are more important right now. I'll get there maybe. But it's cool stuff. Anyway, so I covered all the questions that were asked. Guys, here we are. Thank you for your patience, and we're going on 2 hours. We just did. Here's the deal. Thursday night, our 20th and last scheduled session. The meat of the course. From here on out, there may be tidbit videos, and as you've seen with everything else I've done, whether it's Pitchfork or Tab 29, there will be bonus sessions. So for those of you who thought you were actually done with me, I hate to inform you, you're going to have to put up with a little bit more. So here's the deal. Was that a yay to the session's ending, or a yay to the bonus? Or a yay to don't have to put up with me anymore? Oh, okay. Yeah, look, I'm not going to, I've just never been the guy to sell the course and be gone. Zoe, Richard, Tim, they'll tell you that. So here's the deal. Between now and Thursday, got to make it a little earlier, 3 p.m. Eastern. Questions. I'm going to post a final round for questions. Don't do it until I post that. But if you have any questions, think about where you are. Go through your notes. Think about what's bothering you. Think about where there's still fog. Because after Thursday, It's pedal to the metal. Is that expression understood internationally? Got a couple no's. Pedal to the metal is just an expression that we're going to push the gas pedal as hard as it'll go until the floorboard stops it. Pedal to the metal means, yeah, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I'm going to hold you accountable for posting wherever you are. I understand everybody's not up through the 20th session. But if you're at the 10th session, you should be posting trades reflecting the 10th session. Otherwise, you're going to drop off. And if you drop off, you're not going to make it. Just telling you. So hang with it. Time to get through the last phase. That clarity is going to come from VOT, getting final tweaks, and moving forward. Now, we have some other stuff to do. That's why bonus sessions are going to continue. We're going to get into the reason we all bought Scott Carney version 3. That wasn't just an exercise to sell out at Amazon. So we've got some fun stuff to get back to with scans. We're going to get back to scans 15-minute and 6-hour and 240. Charlie Delta, and now refined, super refined techniques with tab 29 and all of that. Fibonacci with all of that. We still have the full-on mastery of Fibonacci class yet. That will be in the bonus section. So there's a lot more coming, but in terms of the packaging of what we have with harmonic wave convergence, the gist of it's there. So final questions for Thursday, no later than 3 p.m. Eastern. That's noon my time, so that'll give me, a handful of hours Thursday afternoon if I have to do anything fancy to address the questions. So with that, I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate your patience today. You guys have been super to be here this long. And I think we've only lost 1 or 2 people. We got the most attendance we've had out of the group at this session. So that's pretty significant. I like that commitment. That's why I love this group. That's why I love you guys. All right, so let's go forward. I will see those of you that can make it Thursday night. If you can't make it, it's okay. We've got recordings. But because you can't make it doesn't mean you can't have a question answered. So questions by Thursday. Until then, remember, life can be short. So for those people you care and love, let them know you care and love them, just like I love you guys. See you in Facebook land, and I'll see you Thursday night.